Do you speak Mandarin?
妈妈呼呼，
为什么你的中文那么好啊？
因为我是北京人。
I know you speak very good Mandarin.
也没有那么好吧。我叫妮娜，我来自格鲁吉亚，然后在中国之前是读书，然后毕业之后就在这里工作。And we had to learn one Asian language, and I was thinking, why not trying Chinese? And it just turned my life all around.
If you don't speak Chinese, you will feel isolated.
How do you usually practice your Mandarin?
But it's hard because Chinese people tend not to be very patient, so they always speak to me then in French because it's my mother tongue.
Chinese, they don't know how to teach Chinese to foreigners.
How do you compare Chinese and Japanese, the language? Which one is harder?
I think Japanese is harder. わからない。何を話します。
How did foreigners become fluent in Chinese? For this video, I interview foreigners who speak multiple languages and how did they learn Mandarin and what's the hardest part of learning Mandarin. I also asked them a question, what are some pros and cons about living in China? So it's the best channel for you if you're planning to come work, study, or just simply want to travel in China. My name is Aiden, welcome back to the channel. Let's go find out then.
Thank you so much for your time. Can you briefly introduce yourself?
My name is Mohamed Orbel. I'm here in China doing a PhD in Xi'an, so this is my third year here.
Hi everyone, my name is Raisa. I am also known as Raisa in China. I've been in China for 3.5 years.
大家好，我的名字是亚历山大，我是斯特拉斯堡人，是法国人。我学了3年中文在中学，现在学中文在巴黎中国文化中心。
我叫妮娜，我来自格鲁吉亚，然后在中国之前是读书，然后毕业之后就在这里工作。我读硕士的专业是国际关系。
I have a first question. So, what's it like living in China as a foreigner?
So easy. People are so nice. I have visited a lot of places here. I visited Europe many times. Like life is here more safe and less racism and also more nice people.
I don't want to go back home. I love China so much. Beijing, to be precise, I think I can get my way around every time. I'm obsessed with Beijing. No, but when I went to Shanghai, I want to move. So I think I'm obsessed. China is so nice for me.
You like Shanghai better?
Yes, for the fashion and everything, but for the lifestyle and knowing that I've built my brand in Beijing, I cannot go to start over from there.
What are some pros and cons about living in China?
You can get pretty any stuff online. Taobao, Meituan, Pinduoduo, so cheap. You can have like combination of a developed country and like more traditional. You will have different culture, different cuisine to check. Noodles in Xi'an, for example, hot pot in Chongqing. So you'll have like a diverse culture. Cons, if you don't speak Chinese, you will feel isolated. Like you will feel like you're so far from the community here. And some other cons, like I think they should be more English friendly because I think most of the Chinese cannot speak English very well, or they are like they can speak but they are like shy or ashamed to speak like very well.
In China, there is no Google Maps, so very often if I write the pinyin, since I forgot the accent, I have to write in Baidu Translate and then on Gaudadi2 for the address. It's very hard. The Baidu Maps is not available for foreigners. We do not have all the information accessible to the Chinese. It's the most difficult.
The cons are a lot. I'm not gonna lie. The fact that as a student you can't work, it's really hard. If you start working, you get caught by the police, you're sent back home. That is not funny, you know? Because I feel like China is so easy with everything. You know, everything's really accessible, but the money is not accessible. You understand? Yeah.
Do you speak Mandarin?
还可以。
妈妈呼呼，
为什么你的中文那么好啊？
因为我是北京人。
How did you learn Chinese?
At first, through classes in high school, 3 hours a week, and now just like evening class. Just 1 hour 30 each week.
Honestly, talking to Chinese people, just starting from the books is not going to give you anything. I have a lot of Chinese friends and I always communicate with them. Also watching a lot of movies. These are the things that help me a lot. If someone is learning Chinese, that's the first thing I would recommend. Just watch movies and try to communicate with locals.
Before you came to China, did you learn any Chinese?
I've learned for 1 year, but I got like HSK1 or something, which means that I knew only like 100 characters. So it was nothing, yeah. It's very hard to learn Chinese when you're abroad.
Did you always had the interest of learning Chinese or?
I had interest of learning languages in general, and I did my bachelor's degree back home in Georgia. And we had to learn one Asian language, and I was thinking, why not trying Chinese?
when I learned like Mandarin at school. At university it was so bad experience because I couldn't learn anything.
University back in Angola?
Not in Angola first, it's Algeria. University here in China. I think Chinese, they don't know how to teach Chinese to foreigners. They just like want us to learn the same way you learn, by writing answers since the first day, and it's so bad for us as a foreigner.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, and they all the time try to correct our tones, like for example, ma. If you go outside, sometimes even native speakers, they don't speak the correct tone. They just like, I have listened to so, they just get it in the context, of the sentence, so they get their correct tone. So I think if they want like more foreigners to speak like great Chinese, they should either implement like teaching sentences directly, teaching like more input and more output.
So what's the hardest part of learning Mandarin?
Tones for sure. Like characters are complicated, but they're so interesting when you learn. There is a logic, so you can learn them, and also you don't have to handwrite them now. You can just type. But for the tones, if you mess it up and you use different tone, it's just there's going to be another word.
What's the hardest part of learning Chinese Mandarin?
I think the structure of the sentences uses particles, even though you swap sometimes the verb structure. In Chinese, and I also speak a bit of Japanese, it's different. You have the particles, and word complements are not exactly in the same position than in the Western language. And since I have a mix of a French and Japanese accent, because I was living in Dongjing as well, it's a bit difficult for Chinese people to understand my Chinese. If I write in pinyin to say on the phone and I can choose the characters, it's easier, I think, than speaking.
People kind of say that a lot, like Chinese people have hard time understanding like foreign accents.
Yes.
Chinese.
I think this is true, especially like people from Harbin have like almost Russian Siberian sounding accent, and the people in Guangzhou, they can speak Mandarin. They have a strong Cantonese accent, so it's very different. It's like Sweden and Italy.
How do you memorize all these four tones?
Honestly, if you ask me, I don't remember the tones exactly, but I just, as I mentioned, I talk to local people a lot, and I just try to mimic how they speak. So I hope I use the correct tones, but I don't know if they are correct.
Do the locals understand you?
Yeah, so far I didn't have an issue of people not understanding me. I always try to express myself using quite simple words, not making it too complicated.
How do you usually practice your Mandarin?
I have at my office some Chinese colleagues, so I get a chance to speak a little Chinese. But it's hard because Chinese people tend not to be very patient, so they always speak to me then in French because it's my mother tongue. It's kind of difficult.
After you listen to some dramas, be Mango
TV?
Yeah, you read some posts in Xihonshu, or when you go outside, when you see the place, try to notice the character you already saw before. Like this, you will get more of the language. And when you go maybe to the stores or local stores, you just need to, like for example, like if you don't want to buy, like for example, you go to the vegetable store, you just ask him like some random stuff about all like this way. Like for example, for me, I learned vegetables this way. First he gets annoyed, but if you buy from him every day, like he will think that you're a loyal customer and he start answering you. Chinese are so welcome for foreigners who can speak their language. They like, even if you just say 你好, they'll say 特别好, 你的中文这么好. So it's like they encourage you to speak. If I learn like 2 sentences, I will practice them directly.
So what is your advice for people who want to learn Mandarin?
Do not give up. If you already learned to speak Japanese before, like me, it helps. Then it's also a trap, because in Japanese you also have the syllables, the hiragana and katakana, and in Chinese you can't do that. The Chinese character has a meaning, and if you change the tone and you don't use the right particle, it can have totally different meaning.
Yes, exactly. So what's your advice for people who want to learn Mandarin?
To practice more. Don't be afraid of speaking. Don't be afraid of communicating with locals, even if they don't understand. From my experience, Chinese people are very passionate. Like they have a lot of patience, and they will listen and they will try to communicate with you. Read more maybe, watch a lot of movies, and you will get there.
Not just like focusing on writing, because you don't need writing, you know. Even I got 100 at the Chinese test, but like it's just like by memorizing.
I've interviewed across a lot of people. Learning Chinese is like learning how to write is never necessary unless you work for like official.
I'm pretty sure you learned your language by listening to your mom, like at home. And when you were like 5 or 6 and you went to kindergarten, then back then you started learning like how to write. But you already knew and you already speak and you already heard maybe 10,000 times this like word. Heard it before maybe 10,000 times. So like this, when you see it now, you can memorize it directly. But if you just like starting how to write from the first day, it's so bad idea and you will hate and you will feel like Chinese is so hard and so difficult.
What's the most interesting part of learning Chinese?
Oh, a lot. I think the language comes with the whole culture. I cannot separate any part. Characters are very interesting. The Chenyu part is super interesting. And then while learning, you're also learning some maybe parts of the history and culture. When I learned Chinese, I discovered the whole new world for me. It's not just the language.
What is your favorite 成语?
There is one, but I'm not gonna say it.
Why not?
Edit it out. 正变分 is like the wind that blows from the pillow when the wife brainwashes the husband. You don't know it?
No.
This is so hilarious.
How do you compare Chinese and Japanese, the language? Which one is harder?
Actually, I think Japanese is harder. I think the Japanese people tend to make very complex. I think Chinese logic is more inspired by the Soviet Union, and I think that it has a kind of strength and organized logic that is more Western friendly. Especially my teacher in Paris is from Harbin, and I tend to connect more logically with people from Harbin.
Wow,
Yes.
you make like really detailed observation.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy. You say you were studying in China before in high school?
Oh yes, I did. Gaozhong exchange. So I went in Chinese family in Wuxi Sanzhongshui, the Gaozhong. They had a partnership, and then he also could come to my family.
Wow,
in
that sounds fun.
Strasbourg.
I would do it for my future children.
I hope so, and I think this is probably going to happen more as we become a globalized society. Stopping this to happen is the current conflicts in the world.
So can you say something in Japanese?
わからない。何を話します。私はアレックスです。31歳です。
The first sentence is like, I'm from France. My name's Alex.
Oh, yeah, I'm Alexandre and I'm 31 years old, and it's something like that.
Thank you guys for watching. What's your opinion about learning Mandarin? And do you agree or disagree, or you have your thoughts about learning Mandarin, or just overall about the interview? I know some part of the interview I upload with a short version go viral and got a lot of controversial opinions. I want to hear you guys' thoughts, so leave in the comment below. I will see you guys in the next video.